I know my channel is going to mostly focus on history stuff, but sometimes I'm going to segue to topics that I feel are kind of relevant for my time and for any other time in history. Sometimes I'm just going to get more on the motivational stuff, though I'm not a motivational speaker. So I come from like a huge Army family, but many years ago I left for the Navy. And I can recall when I left for the Navy, right before I left, I met a recruiter who grew up half an hour from me, who took me, I think, to lunch, because in those days, recruiters to woo you would take you to lunch. And he said the most profound thing to me. And he was like, you're going to come back here 20 years from now after you've graduated. And you're going to find out that the people who you thought were popular or who you thought had whatever going on are going to still be stuck in the same stuff. Now, mind you, at the time I was a bullied kid, and that's going to be the next video coming up, so I'll leave that one alone for now. I was the bullied kid. So what happened was he explained to me that when he had come back home to recruit, he met up with an old high school buddy. And this high school buddy was still on what he called that frat boy mentality, where he wanted to be like, go out, party, do all those things. He's like, hey bro, let's go out and have some drinks and hit the town. He gave me that story, and he was saying how this guy got so caught up in being popular all the time that almost 20 years later, he was still stuck being the popular, good-looking guy who chased girls in high school. And he remembers, and I remember the guy, the recruiter, as we were going to lunch, telling me that he told him, dude, I'm a married man with kids at home. I'm going to go spend time with my wife and kids. And the popular guy who had stayed home just did not comprehend that. There was some lacking of that. Popularity didn't mean that much to him anymore. And what he explained to me was, Tara, when you go and you travel the world and you go and you see things, you're not going to be the same person you were in high school. And again, at the time, when you're 19 years old listening to this, it sounds wonderful coming from this recruiter, because where you live, there is really no opportunity for you. It's 1999. It's North Alabama. All you have is a high school diploma. Moving up is difficult. I had known since I was 13 that I was going to join the Navy, and I was going to go out and see things and do the world. I would have retired in 2018, but they did this thing called high year tenure and got me out, and I was not too happy about that. So I had some bitterness for a while about that, but I made peace with it. Here's the thing. I hadn't reached my first high school reunion in 2008, when a lot of people in my graduating class and in our rival school went downhill. I'm like, wow, it's amazing that in that short amount of time, some people had already died. Some had already started doing long prison sentences, the whole 9 yards. And every time I'd go back and I would think about that conversation in the car, because for the longest time I remembered the guy's name that recruited me, because I felt like he saved my life in a way, and I owe him gratitude for his advice. Here's the thing. I know that I said I don't want kids on my platform, and for the most part I don't. But I'm sure sometimes all of you who are adults who are listening sit back and think, yeah, back in high school, I remember that popular kid, or I was that popular kid. But then I think the guy I spoke with, he was the type that he was popular, but he just became an adult and went on with his life. And sometimes life can seem like a game of chess. And in other aspects, it's just something else. But basically, the thing about it is that what he wanted me to learn on my own, that I've come to understand, is that I never thought in a million years that these popular kids that sat back home and they're still in their Breakfast Club mentality of the outcasts, the jocks, the cheerleaders, the pretty girls, the rejects. I never thought in a million years that, because I'm a Gary Vaynerchuk fan, of course, I never thought in a million years that I would grow empathy for these people, because they're stuck in an unnecessary box of how wonderful they once were. And the world has moved on, but they're going to not leverage their talents because they'd much rather be stuck in that small town where, because they were the good looking jock or the pretty cheerleader, they don't want to go anywhere. And they may have not necessarily played any kind of sports or did any extracurricular activities. They were just worshiped and put on a pedestal. But life is so much richer than that. And I don't understand why people don't get out, why they don't experience it, why they don't quite understand that it's okay to get out and enjoy it. Popular kids, I once didn't feel sorry for them. I can remember my graduation at my school in North Alabama. I won't say which one it was, but it'll be blatantly obvious if somebody ever finds this video. I disliked them so much when I was growing up, and naturally because I was an outcast, that I can remember doing two things. First, when they would have the rehearsals for the graduation, I just outright refused to go. I'm like, I don't like these people. Why would I spend any more time around them than I need to? That's low-hanging fruit to me. And I know it'll say, somebody will watch this and say, oh my God, you think you're better than people. No. My true emotions were buried in the fact that I just didn't like those people. And I just let it be known that I didn't, you know? So I didn't go to any of the rehearsals. I'm like, okay, whatever. Now that was 1998. I stayed for a year. The 1999 story I told you earlier. Okay. Kind of should have kept it linear, but I'm free talking. And I'm going to free talk on the Stuck in High School series in this part 1 of it. Maybe part 2 with the bully kid, but we'll get back to that. Okay, so the point about it is, the second thing that I did, this absolute second thing that I did, is when I was growing up in Alabama in the late, early, the mid 90s, whatever, there was still a sense of traditional decorum. So what that meant was whatever they banned from graduation, you could not do. So all of the students were required to wear black shoes. And I think they had to be closed toe, closed heel. So I remember people in the graduating class, because I was an outcast and they had a view of me, though people just didn't say, because people were more low tone on it back then. I showed up to graduation in that black cap and gown, and I had the nerve to wear open toe, open heel gold shoes, and I rocked them. And I'm like, and I dare these people, after I'm about to legitimately graduate, not give me my diploma over shoes. Now looking back, that was kind of stupid. But I just didn't like being there back then, so I did not care. Even the popular kids, ooh, they weren't paying me attention, and I knew that they weren't going to. So by the time, because my last name, my maiden last name is at the back of the line, not going to say that either. So by the time they got to calling my name and I went on stage, shook hands, did this thing, whatever, They realized I was wearing gold shoes. I'm like, too late, you've graduated me. I thought it was funny. I'm like, I got to get that last dig in. Because originally in 1998 is when I was going to leave. And then there's a third and last dig I took that I know somebody heard me. The ceremonial cap and gown, I didn't throw mine. So I was like, woo, I don't have to be fake with these people anymore. And a few of them turned and looked at me because they're like, I know the outcast doesn't have the nerve to say that. But they knew that they didn't say anything. It didn't matter. Just as I'd found out that my prom was the popular kids went on a boat and did their own thing, and they maybe stayed at the prom for half an hour and took photos. And because like where I lived in North Alabama, I think I graduated with at the time some of the richest and most affluent kids in the city. So they didn't feel the need to have their prom with us peons. I later find out that these people didn't have as good a life as I thought they did. And the thing with popular kids is that some miss the point that you are going to grow up and mommy and daddy are not going to always take care of you. And yeah, you got those women who still throw themselves on you, still ingratiate themselves on you, but that won't last forever. And yeah, you were the pretty cheerleader and you married the perfect guy in town, but how happy are you? Now, let me give a disclaimer. I don't think that every person that ran off into the world and saw the world were necessarily happy either. That's why people I graduated with that since went back home. There's something about North Alabama. There's something about that laid back vibe that I personally miss. But I think at the same time, it's okay to address that there was a certain level in this society where people spend a lot of time worrying about popularity and things that are not necessary. I think that popular kids sit home, some of them, or most of them, and they stay in their little small enclave, not because they're content and comfortable, but because they are scared. If you guys listen to that song Paramore, Ain't It Fun? When the person who was a popular kid and was told they were special all their life and trophies for everyone, when they get out in the real world, they cave because the real world let them know that there's a whole lot of them out there that they have to compete with. Because no one cares about you when you're outside of your little town. Now that's harsh, but that is truth. Okay? That's not my truth, because again, I don't believe in speaking my own truth. And I told you, don't bring that crap about speaking your truth on a channel. Don't bring it on this channel. It is the actual truth. That is one of my songs. Don't go crying to your mama. Because once you're out there, no one cares. The real world is going to slap you in the face. They're not going to give a crap that you were the good looking football player. You get in these big cities, it's a hustle, it's a real life. When you get out in that real world, you are confronted with real problems that are outside of your insular little group. That is just life. I think that there's a failure to launch with those popular kids, because if you stay in that little comfortable enclave, all the people can talk about how wonderful you used to be and still praise you and how fun you were and who you were. Now, I know some high school kids are going to be hot-headed and they're going to sneak on here, and I'm not encouraging you to say anything on any of my program till you're 18 years old, because by then you're grown. But what I'm telling you right now is, if you are that popular kid, deep down inside, the people who praise you, who ingratiate you, who put you on a pedestal, in some way see you as a sad token of the past. They want the greatness of what you were. They don't care about the potential that you can bring into the future. And look, I'm not saying popularity is all bad. I've gone to school with popular kids who've gone on to do well with their lives, and they've gotten a ton of humility, but I think a whole lot of them lose that humility. A majority of you will, because you've been told you're special and you're popular and people are clapping for you and giving you praise. But there's going to come a time when that just gets old. It just is what it is, and it's just not going to sustain you. And when that time comes, and I'm much certain that it is going to come for you, what are you going to do then? This is more of a video for the future of kids who watch once they get 18 plus, to know that if you were the prettiest in high school, if you were told you were going to be a supermodel, if you were told you're special, the real world doesn't care. And I know I say that in a crass type of way, but it is what it is. And that's why I tell people, listen to that Paramore song, Ain't It Fun? Because it really reveals the fear of you going outside of that box that you were put in when you were told you were special, and when your little small town or little small city was ingratiating themselves by giving you claps and praise. Because the real world doesn't care. If you are that popular kid right now, and you're starting to feel deep regret, just know that you have time. So long as there's breath in your body, you can do something extraordinary with yourself. But I believe, particularly within my generation, it started with the trophies for everyone, and everyone is special. And if you were already good looking, if you already had it handed to you on a platter in the 20th century, particularly the 80s and 90s, when you had that whole prosperity thing, before it sort of fell to the wayside in the early 2000s, and there's the crash in 2008. You rode that wave. But now, me being 42, those people are between the ages of 38 and up, between 38 and I would say 48. And they're learning that they were not as special as they thought they were. You were only special within that frame of time, and that is just a frame of time. And once that frame of time fades, your glory and what you felt for yourself should fade with it. So here's what I'm saying. If you're a popular kid, because again, I know you hotheads are going to be listening to my video. If you are a popular kid right now, and you are in high school, if deep down you know you don't want to stay in that box, please contemplate a positive way out that will eventually lead to empathy for those who don't live in your bubble. If you are that popular kid and you feel a sense of home and you want to stay where you want to stay, you must evolve in your environment. Because to be honest with you, when you're still stuck on all your praise and claps, what those people tell you to their face is different when they laugh behind your back. And will they necessarily have your back? No. That's why you're still stuck in that same space of being special, of being wonderful, and of being ingratiated. Let it marinate. Y'all have a good evening.